Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 2224. The topic is nutrition, and the title is How to Structure Your Diet for Lean Muscle Gain. Ooh. So one of my clients is coming out of a bodybuilding show. He did Men's Physique, and we're into our off season. Now, in our off season, our goal will be to build as much muscle as we can, but minimize body fat formation. Now, he had an interesting question that prompted a hopefully helpful response. He thought it was helpful. We'll see what you think in regards to his question about his diet. And then I want to expand on that and discuss how we are structuring his diet for the goal of building the maximum amount of muscle with a minimal amount of body fat. So he wrote, ever since starting your diet, when I go off program, I tend to balloon up in weight. Sunday night, I substituted my last meal for pizza. And this morning, which was Tuesday, my weight shot up from what it was last week. We do our check-ins every Tuesday morning. So he was comparing this Tuesday compared to last Tuesday. And he noticed he lost muscle definition. He said, am I doing something wrong? So essentially he's saying when I eat different foods, my weight goes up, I lose my muscle definition. What is happening? My response was, your body is currently intentionally being held back from filling your glycogen potential. Now he knows what that is, but for those who don't, glycogen is when our body stores carbohydrates, water, and sodium in your muscle cells. It's essentially a source of energy that the muscle keeps within the cells. Now, it can get energy from food we eat in the bloodstream, breaking down stored body fat for energy, but it's just glycogen is just another way the body stores and uses energy. So when we consume carbohydrates combined with sodium and water, it stores that in our muscles as glucose, and the fancy term for that is glycogen. So we're currently intentionally limiting his glycogen formation. So this means we're eating less carbs and overall calories than what your body could really store. This is helping us control and limit body fat accumulation as we build muscle. This is similar to what most new generation pro bodybuilders do, and there was plenty of old generation bodybuilders that did this. It's not anything new. It's just typical old school thinking would be bulking and cutting. And often when people did bulks, they just got fat, unnecessarily fat, and it made their cuts much harder to get into competition shape. Now, there are many people back in the day who kept their body fat very lean in the off season, and that was exactly what we want to be doing. But it seems as though more people are aware of it nowadays as the better approach of the two options. So that's what I was referring to as new generation pro bodybuilders, because it helps them stay leaner in the off season so that for shows they can come in with thinner. Essentially they just come in leaner. It makes their their skin look thinner, but that's not really happening. They're not dieting away layers of skin, but it's allowing them to come in leaner and leaner and leaner and leaner to really keep up with the conditioning desire that shows want to have nowadays. There was plenty of argument as to whether people in the 90s were leaner than they are now on stage, but you're still talking about very low single-digit body fat levels. So the staying leaner in the off season is it makes dieting easier for competitions, and you can still maximize muscle tissue growth with proper nutrient timing and amounts. And that's what I want to talk about today. So I continued on with my answer is, since we're holding your body back from full glycogen storage, the second it gets any excess, it will fill up those stores. But once full, it would start to create and store body fat if we continue to give it excess calories. So we can afford a few random day fill-ups or moments of excess like his pizza, but we don't want to have those on back-to-back days, nor having full days of excess where we're hours and hours and hours of excess available for the body to be storing body fat. So a random high carb or high calorie meal here or there won't hurt us as long as it stays random. And along with that, anytime you have a spike in sodium intake compared to your normal foods, you'll also have a spike in body weight via stored water in the muscles. So for both of these reasons, it would be why when he eats extra calories, extra food, or different foods, or even foods with just higher sodium content than his normal foods, that his weight shoots up. The shoot ups are just temporary because they're stored body water, not body fat, as long as those random foods, those random excesses are kept random and limited. So essentially, we're dieting with the intent to keep his glycogen stores empty outside of his training windows. Now, glycogen storage, you can think of this as energy for workouts. I'm going to simplify some things, but in the grand scheme of things, if we understand the simplifications and we apply these, we're going to get great results. So the nuances matter much later down the line. But you can think of glycogen as energy like gas in your gas tank for your car. So the more glycogen I have, the more energy I'm going to have during my workouts. I'm going to feel better, I'm going to perform better. You're also going to fill out the muscles. It's like blowing up a water balloon. You're going to fill up the muscles with water and glucose and sodium, and they're going to look full. You're going to feel really good. Everything's going to feel great. So glycogen, when full, gives us great energy. But if it's perpetually full, it puts us on the edge of unnecessary stored body fat. So we want to have it feel full when we want it, and we want to have it emptied or not full when we don't want it. So an example of this is leading into our workouts. We want to consume carbohydrates so we can create glycogen, break those carbohydrates down for glucose, use that fuel. We want to be able to have gas in our gas tank. We want to use the energy. So before our workouts, it's okay, and it's actually ideal to have carbohydrates to have good energy. Now, these are weight training specific workouts. They're, anywhere between, say, 40 to 90 minutes, depending on the person, depending on their goals, depending on their schedule, depending on their, availability for time window. But 40 to 90 minutes focused weight training. So you're going to be lifting something pretty heavy for, say, 20 to 40 seconds on average. Then you're going to take maybe a 2-minute rest, 20 to 40 seconds, 2-minute rest, and you're doing that for, 40 to 90 minutes. Now, there's longer breaks in between exercise transitions and warm-ups and whatnot. What we're looking for is that type of activity fuels well via carbohydrates. When you have activity that is more steady state on the moderate level of intensity, that can be used, like fat can be used for that. So you think of like moderate intensity, long distance running. So if somebody's going to run for 90 minutes or more, fats are an okay source of energy for that. And you could easily make an argument that those would be optimal compared to carbohydrates. So it depends on the type of activity you're doing, but if we're doing weight training specifically to build bigger muscles, then carbohydrates are a very good source of energy because it gives us the energy we want when we want it, but it then allows for a quick dissipation so that way we can control our glycogen storage outside of our training sessions to minimize body fat formation. So leading into our workouts, we want to have the peak moment of our glycogen being the most full or our carbs being the highest is leading into our workouts. Then after our workout, we're going to be depleted because we used a lot of that during the workout. We actually want to leave our stores of glycogen depleted the rest of the day. So if you think about how much the body can store for glycogen, it's dependent on the individual body size, muscle mass. There's some things involved that would make it different for every person. But we can think of it as a capacity load of, say, 100%. So your body, before the workout, we want to get it as close to 100% as possible. Make sure it's fueled, feeling good. Then after the workout, we want to stay away from 100%. I would say you want to maybe float somewhere between, just for conceptual purposes, 40 to 80% throughout the day. What this does is it gives us enough energy to do our daily activities to get through the day, but it doesn't cause momentary surpluses when we eat, which would be moments of our body possibly storing body fat when there's excess calories, excess energy available. So we want to make sure that our energy nutrients, our carbs and fats, are moderate throughout the day. They're enough to fuel our activity, but not more than what we need. And then protein, we want to have some protein going into our workout for sure, because we're going to, especially if you do early morning workouts, you just fasted for a bit because you were sleeping. So we want to have some protein ingested into the system, make sure that's available, whether you work out midday or the evening, still, from your last meal, you want to make sure there's some protein available in the bloodstream to help mitigate muscle stress, muscle damage, and to be, in a sense, repairing and kind of performing protein synthesis, like muscle formation, protein formation, while we're also breaking it down. Again, I'm trying to simplify some things as much as I can. So we want to have protein during the workout available to our body. And then we want to have the peak of our protein after the workout, and then sustain really good blood levels of protein throughout the day. So that way our body has enough protein available to build the muscle tissue that we're wanting to build, if we're doing a lean muscle gain diet. We want to be gaining muscle. So our goal when we structure this is to peak our glycogen storage, peak our carbohydrate intake before the workout, and then maintain submaximal but still good enough carbohydrate intake during the day to fuel our daily activities and to fuel the muscle building process. But it doesn't require that we eat massive amounts of carbs all day. It's a moderate amount of carbs all day. And then protein, we want that peaked after the workout, but then also sustained throughout the day, pretty well evenly distributed. And typically, for most people, I start them with a goal around 1 gram per pound of body weight for protein. Sometimes we do more, sometimes we do less. Depends on muscle mass, depends on leanness, depends on their activity level outside of our workouts. But that's a general kind of aiming point to start at. Now, this type of structure is going to allow the person to have optimal performance during their training, to get the optimal stimulus intensity, which would then give us the optimal adaptation response. And then we're also going to give it enough of what it needs, building blocks wise, for muscle tissue, enough energy, nutrients, and enough protein to build the muscle. But we don't want to have surpluses. We want to have a very controlled intake throughout the day. Now, I want to give you a breakdown of what his current diet looks like. Is this diet the best for everyone? Hell no. But this diet works really well for him, and it's allowing us to make progress, and we will continue to tweak it as we continue to make progress. But I want to give you an example of what a diet can look like with this structure in mind. So his pre-workout meal, he's having 30 grams of whey isolate. So he works out in the morning. He wakes up, basically eats, and goes right to the gym. So we don't have a lot of time. So we're going to do whey isolate, which is a very fast digesting protein source. He's going to do 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, 1 banana. That's 344 calories with 37 grams of protein. Now, the banana is moderate digesting carbohydrates, meaning they're not super fast, not super slow. It's enough of a speed to where by the time he gets to the gym, it's starting to be available, and then it's a sustainable energy throughout his workout. Now, the 2 tablespoons of peanut butter is fats, but it helps to sustain the duration of that banana energy. So that way, he has enough enough energy at the start of his workouts, but he doesn't have a crash in the middle of his workouts. So this is a way for us to get energy in him before the workout, but then to sustain it during the workout. His post-workout meal is going to be 8 ounces of chicken breast, 240 grams of rice, and then sauce under 100 calories. That's going to give him about 710 calories or 63 grams of protein. Now, he can substitute the chicken with anything he wants. Any other meat, doesn't matter, as long as he's getting around 200 to 250 calories, less than 10 grams of fat, but at least 40 grams of protein out of that meat source. Okay. Now, rice substitutions, he can also substitute that. Like I like jasmine rice, but he can eat white basmati wild. He can substitute it with potatoes if he wants, pasta if he wants. He wants to have the rice substitute be within 400 to 500 calories, less than 10 grams of fat. So that would be his way of substituting foods in if he doesn't want to do chicken breast and rice. Now, he asked me for specifically what I would recommend, and specifically what I'd recommend is chicken breast and rice. So that's why I wrote it in there. But I also gave substitutions for him. His midday meal is the same: 8 ounces of meat, 240 grams of rice, less than 100 calories of sauce. And again, that's 710 calories, 63 grams of protein. His evening meal is the same thing: 8 ounces of meat, 240 grams of rice, less than 100 calories from sauce, and 710 calories with 63 grams of protein. Now, again, that can seem very boring. You're like, I don't want to have chicken and rice, 3 meals a day. You certainly don't have to, and that's exactly what he and I talked about. I gave him that as an example, but he can substitute fish, he can substitute turkey, he can substitute ground beef, whatever he wants. He could put in tofu if he wants to have tofu, just something that's a good protein source, that's low in fat. Then the rice substitutions, again, it could be anything. He could have bagel, bread, pasta, potatoes, oats, whatever the heck he wants. I don't care. Whatever he wants, just eat it. Now, the fun part is, what we're doing to make an adjustment for him that is fun in the sense of allowing for variation but also addition is on all of his days, regardless of what he's training, he has an allowance for 200 to 500 extra calories during the day of any food he wants. So again, this is off-season. This is what he's doing as a lifestyle maintenance. So if he wants to have some Oreos, if he wants to have some cookies, he wants to have some muffin, if he wants to, have a fun drink sometime in the middle of the day, if he wants to add anything at any time during the day, he has a 200 to 500 calorie allowance to do that. Now, on leg and back day, so when he trains his legs and when he trains his back, those are two body parts we identified as really wanting to bring up in his physique. He's going to have an additional 300 to 500 calories in his pre-workout meal. So the pre-workout of 30 grams of whey isolate, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, and 1 banana, he's going to add 300 to 500 calories of anything he wants. Now, it can be Gatorade if he wants more just sugary drink. It can be Oreos, it can be cookies, it can be gummy bears. I don't give a crap what it is. He can add in whatever he wants. Now, if we add in something with a huge energy bomb afterwards, we're going to adjust that. So it's a little bit of a live and learn process. But we're allowing him to intake more calories pre-workout on the days that we want to have a more aggressive training stimulus. Now, why aren't we doing that on every day? Because we're trying to control his body fat a little bit, and he tends to feel hyped up and feel good energy and excited for his chest and arm days. He doesn't really need the extra calorie motivation there. He just enjoys training those body parts. So we don't need the calories on those days. So if we skip them, that's an extra way for us to just control body fat formation. So what this is doing is it's putting him for leg and back days around 3,300 calories, plus or minus some, with 226 grams of protein or more. On other days, he's having around 3,000 calories and still 226 grams of protein. Now, his protein is a little bit higher than his body weight, but that's what we found is good for him. It helps with satiety in his meals. He feels fuller in his meals. He also just recovers better, feels better. He stomachs it well. He has no trouble eating that amount. He would actually eat more if I let him. So we allow our protein to go higher for him based on his individual experience with protein. So this would be something that we can use for you, is if you think about how you can structure your diet to allow for lean muscle gain, is we want to aim for on our training days to peak our carbohydrates before the training, but then the rest of the day, eat moderate amount to just maintain daily energy. We want to peak our protein after training, but maintain a nice even distribution throughout the day so our body always has protein available to be building muscle. When you weight train, it can take easily 48 to 72 hours for the body to fix and repair those muscles. So you want to be providing plenty of protein available to the body in a nice even distribution. So one of the distribution setups or structures that I use for clients to start with is we call thirds. So the first 5 to 6 hours of the day have a third of your protein. The second 5 to 6 hours of your day have another third of your protein. The final whatever hours of being awake have the final 1/3 of your protein. Whether that's in one meal or 2 meals, doesn't matter. The meal count doesn't matter. You just want to distribute it by the hours. So 1/3 per 5 to 6 hours of the day. Now, I do get more specific with that when I get to my more advanced clients, but that's a great place to start for everyone listening to this. So what we would do then is what I do with this client and all of my physique clients is we track their progress on body scale, like the body weight, but then also photos. So he was seeing, if you remember in the beginning, I was talking about he was seeing lack of muscle definition. We would see that every Tuesday. Now, if we were eating too much, we might see a little pockets, like a little bit of blurriness of definition kind of universally over his whole body. Whereas, what I've seen at times is he'll have a little pooch of water, a little pooch of loss of definition specific to his lower belly and his kidney areas in his lower back. And that's typically, I'll ask him, I'll be like, hey, what'd you have last night? And he'll be like, oh, yeah, I went off, track and ate some extra sugars or ate extra a little bit of this. So if it's a momentary surplus, that does show up in pockets of the body. But if it's a systemic surplus, you would see a more even blending, like blurring of definition. So then that would tell us we might need to bring the calories down every day. Whereas if it's the pockets that we're seeing blurriness, I know it's a momentary excess and just tell them to make sure you watch those and limit that. And we'll see if that goes away in the next few days. So we track photos, we track body weight, and then we make adjustments to our total calories and carbs based on energy and muscle definition. And then we make adjustments to our protein based on the progression of muscle growth and size and his rate of recovery between his workouts. So if he wasn't recovering well, we'd increase protein. If we felt like, hey man, your weight's been pretty stagnant for the last 4 weeks, we would up the protein to see if we can get more growth. So these are the modifications we would make, and this is the structure we would have for a diet focused around lean muscle gains. Awesome. Now, if you want any help with any of this, this is what I do. So we have our one-on-one coaching service. Right now, the cost is $200 a month with no contract. I would write your nutrition program specific to your preferences and your schedule and your goals and needs. I would also then write your training program, and we would update that every week if we need, but usually I rotate the programs every 4 weeks. And it's specific to your body, your physique, your equipment availability, your schedule. Everything is 100% personalized. There's no templates. There's no copy and paste anything. Everything is 100% unique to each individual. So if you're interested in that, we also do weekly communications as well with that service. So you can learn more about that service on our website, www.brittleirongym.com, or you just shoot me an email, brittleirongym@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to discuss that with you. If you like the podcast, please share the podcast. The more people we share it with, the more people can help. If you like the podcast, please consider donating to support the podcast. You can do a money donation on our website, or you can buy your supplements from NutriCost.com. I've been buying my supplements from them for over 10 years. You can use the code BRUTALIRON10 for a 10% discount, and whatever you spend, we get a 10% commission. So you get a way to give back to us, as also a way to get great supplements at a great discount for you. And then if you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.